The last time I called Mom, I had not eaten anything for 7 days. When I was 5, Mom and Dad adopted a girl from a remote fishing village. From that day on, she slept in my room, wore my dresses, and called my mom and dad hers. And I was sent back to the fishing village where she had grown up. I lived with her grandmother, who had Alzheimer's. Mom said, "She suffered too much growing up. You've never suffered before, so you should get a taste of it too." Before I left, Dad ordered me to take good care of the confused grandmother and watch the house and yard. After Grandma threw my food to the dog again, I finally could not take it anymore and called Mom to ask for something to eat. She was terribly annoyed. How come Clara can endure hardship, but you can't? The sea is all around you, so if you're hungry, go catch fish in the water. I obediently listened and went into the sea to catch fish. But while I was swimming in the sea to catch fish, a fisherman mistook me for a big fish and speared me to death. It was not until 3 years later that Mom came to pick me up. "Anna, I'm here to take you home." There was a pile of bones in the center of the room, and a rusty fishing spear lay on top of it. She kicked it without the slightest concern. The window glass was shattered, and the sea wind poured in. The excrement of the grandmother with Alzheimer's was everywhere. Grandma was curled up in a pile of tattered bedding, dazed, drool constantly running from her mouth. Mom, Sophia, frowned, covered her nose, waved at the foul smell in the air, and could not help complaining. "Why is this place like a dump? Don't you know how to clean? Anna, get out here and clean this up." Sophia looked around, and her voice calling my name grew louder and louder. I happily threw myself at her, but I hugged nothing, passing through her body like air. I forgot again. I had died 3 years ago. After hoping and waiting so long, I had finally waited until Mom came back. She was carrying cookies and cake, and I was so greedy that I almost drooled. I felt happy inside, thinking Mom still had me in her heart, and she had finally come to take me home. I jumped around beside her happily. "Mom, I'm here, I'm right here." Her phone rang, and unable to stand the stench in the house, she went outside to answer it. I immediately followed her. "Baby, be good. Mom will be back soon. I'm picking up your sister. Mom bought you your favorite cookies and cake, all the things you love." Okay, I'll be back in a little while, and tonight Mom will hold you while you sleep." I froze, and my excited heart instantly turned icy cold, as if a basin of cold water had been poured over it. So those cookies and cakes were bought for my younger sister. I waved my arms in grievance and roared at her. "I'm your biological daughter, so why don't you love me?" I was clearly more obedient than my adopted sister, so if you didn't like me, why did you give birth to me? She could not hear anything and turned back into the house with a disgusted look on her face.
"Mom,
"Where is Anna? What's going on? I've been calling for so long, and there's no response." Her tone began to grow impatient, and she raised her hand to check the expensive watch on her wrist, clearly anxious to hurry back. I squatted on the ground, like the year I had almost starved to death, too powerless to hate. For someone who does not love you, even overwhelming love is like punching cotton. So my adopted sister was already this old, and Mom would still hold her while she slept. But when I was 5, after they adopted my sister and brought her home, I was sent to the fishing village and made to sleep with the grandmother who had Alzheimer's. When Grandma's illness acted up, she was like a violent thug and would beat me until I was covered in bruises. I cried so hard that snot bubbled from my nose as I clung to Sophia's leg and begged bitterly. "Mom, please take me home. I don't want to stay here." She frowned, her whole face saying I was being spoiled. "You're the older sister, so you need to be sensible. Your sister just came to our home, and everything is unfamiliar to her, so she needs more care. Don't be naughty and provoke Grandma, and she won't hit you. Clara's grandmother is sick, and Clara endured it all, so you can too." She always said I could do it too, so I had to shoulder so many things that a child my age should never have had to bear. From then on, I never knew again what Mom's bed or Mom's embrace smelled like. Anna catching bugs, a whole bunch dead child. Grandma was not clear-headed, and she could not recognize my mom as she slowly muttered to herself. My mom stopped looking for me and stared at the ruined house in disgust, nagging. She's still as naughty as she was when she was little. Not quiet and graceful like Clara at all. What kind of girl catches bugs? She made the room dirtier than a doghouse. She's such a big girl now, but she has no sense of hygiene at all. And she's always trying to come home with me. With how sloppy she is, she really has been spoiled rotten by me. She let out a heavy sigh. It was full of disappointment in me. My heart felt as if a hole had been torn through it, and the pain made even my soul tremble. But Mom, I caught bugs because there was nothing to eat at home. Grandma and I were so hungry that we were weak, and we really could not get any thinner, so I caught bugs. I was so scared that I wailed, but I still did not dare let go. To fight birds for bugs, I climbed very high up trees and often fell down. Even if I managed to catch a bug and roast it, I could not bear to eat it myself. Instead, I saved it for Grandma, and only after Grandma was full could I eat. But Grandma was never full, and she even got so hungry that she bit a chunk of flesh from my leg. Even after becoming a ghost, the spot where that piece of flesh was bitten away from my leg was still hollow. Many families in the fishing village had moved away, and now only Grandma remained in this broken-down house. After I went into the sea to catch fish and was speared to death by a fisherman, the former village chief thought my parents had picked me up. Seeing how pitiful Grandma was, he would deliver food every week, and sometimes once every 2 weeks. That was how Grandma survived. Sophia could not bear the foul smell and retched in nausea for a while. She really could not stay any longer, so she hurriedly opened her exquisite Louis Vuitton bag, took out $500, and placed it on the trash-covered table. There was a plate of fat dead bugs on the table, already covered in mold and giving off waves of stench. Sophia ran outside in disgust and threw up for a long time. Anna, dead child, give me bugs, big fat bugs. Grandma chased after her, barefoot, hunched over, dirty and disheveled, like a madwoman. Before she even got close, that thick stench filled the air. My mom reached out to stop her. Don't come over here. You stink. I put $500 in living expenses on the table for you and Anna, so tell her to spend it carefully. I'll come see her again, next time. My soul followed them outside too, numb as I watched her disgusted expression. Just as she was about to hurry away, a video call came to her phone, and the contact name was husband. I didn't see Anna. She seems to have gone out to catch bugs. She's so old, yet still so naughty. Sophia's tone was full of disgust as she summarized what she had seen in a few words. I leaned closer and saw Dad in the video. His hair was slicked back and shiny, he wore an expensive suit, and his skin looked good. His whole body gave off the rich air of someone raised by money. The house behind him was bright and exquisitely decorated. My heart felt sour, because this good life had once belonged to me. It was just that after they adopted my sister, Mom and Dad felt that ordinary me was too spoiled, so they sent me here to receive hardship education. I did not dare call them often, afraid they would think I was delicate, and the only time I called was 7 days before I starved to death. Maybe after suffering too much pain, nothing could stir up much emotion anymore. I just stood numbly beside Sophia. Honey, I thought about it, and shouldn't we bring Anna to the city now? Anna is 8, and it's inconvenient for her to go to school there. My shattered heart was instantly stitched together a little, and tears of surprise filled my eyes. Mom did not love me, but Dad still cared about me. I stared at Dad and smiled, even though he could not see me. Sophia let out a deep sigh, and her tone was disappointed, disgusted, and hopeless. She covered her nose and walked into the house, aiming the camera inside. Look, Anna made the house look like a dump. I want to take her back too, but look at how filthy she is. How can we take her? I felt extremely wronged and said dully, I'm not filthy. What could a 5-year-old child do? I had been dead for 3 years and you still did not know. Let me see my sister's house. Let me see. A lively and cheerful voice came through, and a 7-year-old girl with 2 pretty braids appeared in the video. She was my adopted sister, Clara. She had been raised very well, wearing a beautiful princess dress, her skin tender like a peeled egg. She was confident and lively, like a little princess from a wealthy family. Her smile disappeared when she saw the ruined house in the video, and her disgusted expression was exactly like Sophia's. It's so dirty. Even a dump isn't this dirty. I won't let her come to our house. Someone this unhygienic will definitely bring lots of germs. But the fishing village I was in had clearly been her former home. Ethan quickly pulled Clara into his arms and coaxed her. Okay, we'll listen to our little princess and not bring your sister here yet. We'll have your sister fix all her hygiene habits, and after she becomes a clean little kid, we'll bring her here, okay? Clara pouted proudly and pulled Ethan's hand to the side. Let her see my room. When she makes her room as pretty and clean as mine, then you can bring her here. With a great sense of superiority, Clara showed every corner of her room to the camera. Mom, let her see what a girl's room should look like. I don't want a sister who lives in a trash heap. I stared without blinking at Clara's room, because it had once been my bedroom. The room was decorated cutely and brightly, and a cabinet of toys and figurines was arranged neatly inside. Her room was very big, connected to a transparent walk-in closet. All kinds of dazzling clothes hung inside. Even the carpet in the room was snowy white and fluffy, like walking on clouds. I just watched, my mind completely blank. My heart, riddled with wounds, could not muster even the slightest strength to hate or resent. Your sister is only like this because she's in the fishing village. Once she comes to the city, she won't be like this anymore. When your sister comes, there'll be one more person to play with you and one more person to take care of you. Wouldn't that be great? Ethan's words coaxing Clara stabbed into my heart like knives. I hated that sentence with everything I had. You're the older sister, and you enjoyed good days for many years. So you should give way to your adopted sister and let your adopted sister live a good life. After the video call ended, my mom took a pen and paper from her bag. She wrote a few lines on it. Anna, Mom will go back for now this time. You made the house far too dirty and messy, so Mom will give you 1 month to clean both the house and yourself. 1 month later, Mom will come to inspect it, and if the hygiene is up to standard, Mom will take you home. If it isn't up to standard, you'll stay here and continue reforming yourself. After writing it, she looked at the house not far away and hesitated, then stuffed the note into Grandma's drafty pocket. This note is for Anna, so you must make sure she sees it. I'll go back for now this time, and tell Anna I'll come again in 1 month. After saying that, she hurried away without looking back. I watched her back, smiling until I started crying. Grandma stared dazedly at her back for a long time. Grandma, go back inside. Don't stay out here in the sun. The scorching sun made sweat pour from her head, but she stared blankly and did not know to wipe it away. Maybe she was also just lucky because after getting heat strokes several times, she had managed to survive. Anna, catching bugs, playing dead child, sea, fish. She began talking nonsense again. I watched helplessly as she was left to fend for herself, just like I had once been. Even though she was not my biological grandmother, I still did not want to watch her fend for herself the way I once had. But I was powerless. I ran into the house and anxiously reached out to clean the room. But my hands could not pick up anything, and I stomped my feet and cried in panic. I can't help you anymore. What do I do? What do I do? But she cheerfully picked up the maggot-infested food from the table and began eating. I cried even louder at the top of my lungs, trying to make her hear my voice. But everything was in vain. 1 month later, Sophia and Ethan came back together. This time, their hands were empty. I pouted and complained. What are you coming back for? Only Clara is your precious baby, so don't come back here and disgust me. They could not hear anything, but I heard plenty of them complaining that I was sloppy and disobedient. It just so happened that the village chief came to deliver food to Grandma. He knew Grandma could not cook, so he only brought food enough for one day, with meat and vegetables, and the meat was stewed very soft so Grandma could chew it. The rest was water, bread, and other instant food. When the village chief saw my dad, he asked curiously, "Is the Clara you adopted never coming back? Then are you responsible for taking care of her grandmother?" My mom said, "Anna is still here, so we sent her here to train herself a little." The confusion on the village chief's face grew deeper. Sophia looked at the room that had not been cleaned at all, covered her nose, and said in disgust again, "Why does this child Anna never change, no matter how many times she's taught?" I told her to clean the place up, and then I'd come get her. She actually didn't clean up at all. This child really can make a person furious. Ethan could not help feeling nauseated either, but in front of others, he held it back. The village chief looked suspicious. "Wasn't Anna taken to the city by you a few years ago?" My mother's face froze. The disgust that had been plastered on her elegant features just a moment ago suddenly cracked, revealing a flicker of confusion. "What do you mean, taken to the city?" Sophia's voice was sharp, defensive. "She's right here. She's probably hiding somewhere, playing one of her ridiculous pranks because she didn't want to clean up. She has always been an attention seeker." Ethan, my father, stepped forward, his leather shoes clicking against the uneven, dusty stone path. He frowned, his manicured eyebrows knitting together. "Chief, we haven't seen Anna in 3 years. We sent her here to learn some humility. We've been sending money to the account every month. How could she be in the city?" The village chief's face drained of color. He looked from Sophia to Ethan, his eyes widening in a mixture of disbelief and growing horror. He took a step back, his hands trembling as he held the plastic container of stewed meat. 3 years. The chief whispered, his voice cracking. "You haven't seen her in 3 years? But Chen the fisherman," he said. "What did Chen say?" Sophia demanded, her voice rising in pitch, an edge of panic creeping in despite her attempt to remain annoyed. 3 years ago, the chief said, his voice shaking violently now. It was a stormy night. Chen came to my house, sobbing, drenched in seawater. He said he was spearfishing near the reefs. It was pitch black, and he saw a large shadow moving under the water. He thought it was a giant sea bass. He threw his spear. The chief stopped, swallowing hard, his eyes darting toward the broken wooden door of our shack. When he pulled the line, it wasn't a fish. It was Anna. She was wearing that little red gingham dress you left her in. The spear had gone right through her chest. Chen was terrified. He carried her body back here, laid her in the middle of the room, and left the spear. He came to me, and I tried to call you. I called the number you gave me. I called it 50 times that night. Ethan's face went entirely white. His hand flew to his pocket, where his sleek, expensive phone rested. We changed our numbers, Ethan stammered, his voice suddenly sounding very small, like a child caught in a lie. Sophia said, she said Anna would keep calling to beg to come home, and that it would ruin her reform. We changed our numbers and blocked all calls from this area code. We set up an automatic bank transfer for the monthly allowance. You blocked the calls, the chief whispered, looking at them as if they were monsters. You blocked us. I sent letters to the address on the registration form, but they all came back marked, recipient moved. We thought you had moved to a new house. And then, a few days after the accident, the body disappeared from the shack. The old grandmother kept shouting that Anna went to the big city to be a star. We thought you finally came in the night, saw what happened, took her body back to the city for a proper burial, and chose not to face us because of the shame. We thought you left the grandmother here with the money you kept sending. Sophia's breath hitched. She looked slowly, very slowly, back toward the dark, foul-smelling interior of the house. I stood beside her, my ghostly hand hovering over her shoulder. Mom, I whispered, though she couldn't hear. I told you. I went into the sea because you told me to. I was so hungry. No, Sophia said, her voice a barely audible squeak. No, that's impossible. If she died, then who has been eating the food? Who has been? The grandmother, the chief said, tears finally spilling over his weathered cheeks. She has Alzheimer's. She doesn't know what's real. I've been coming here to give her food because she was always alone. I thought Anna was with you. I thought the money you sent was for the old woman's care. But if you didn't take Anna's body. The chief's gaze fell to the floor of the shack. Sophia's legs gave out. She collapsed onto the filthy, dirt-caked ground, her pristine white trousers immediately staining with mud and waste. She didn't seem to notice. She crawled forward, dragging herself into the dark, stinking room. Ethan followed her, his steps heavy and mechanical, like a man walking to the gallows. I floated right behind them. There, in the center of the room, lay the pile of bones. Earlier, Sophia had kicked it. She had kicked the skull, sending it rolling slightly against the leg of the rotting table. The rusty fishing spear, long and jagged, still lay across the ribcage, binding the bones to the floor like a cruel anchor. Anna? Sophia whispered. She reached out. Her manicured hand, with its perfect pink nails, trembled violently as she brushed aside a layer of dust and dried leaves. Beneath the grime, a scrap of fabric appeared. It was red and white, faded, torn, and stiff with decades-old, dried blood. It was the gingham dress, my dress. The very dress Sophia had packed for me, telling me that since Clara was now their daughter, Clara deserved the new silk dresses, and I should wear the old, discarded rags. Ah! A blood-curdling shriek ripped from Sophia's throat. It was a sound so raw, so filled with agony, that it vibrated through the very walls of the decaying shack. She threw herself onto the pile of bones, clutching the dirt-caked skull to her chest, sobbing so hard she choked on the foul air. My baby! Oh my God, my baby, she screamed, her voice cracking into a hoarse wail. What did I do? What did I do to you? Ethan stood frozen. His eyes were wide, staring at the small, delicate ribs of the skeleton. He looked at the spear. He fell to his knees beside Sophia, his hands clutching his head as if it were about to explode. 3 years, Ethan whispered, his voice trembling. She was here for 3 years in the dirt, and we were... He didn't finish the sentence, but I knew what he was thinking. 3 years ago, when I was cold and rotting in this dirt, they were celebrating Clara's birthday. I remembered the dates. Clara's birthday was in the autumn. They had hired a professional party planner, turned the entire backyard into a fairy tale castle, and bought her a miniature pony. While they were taking photos of Clara blowing out her candles, my bones were being gnawed on by the mice in this dark room, and my grandmother, in her madness, was trying to feed my skull with moldy bugs. Speaking of grandmother, she crawled out from her tattered bedding. Anna, don't cry, the old woman mumbled, her eyes glassy and unfocused as she looked at Sophia. Anna is a good girl. Anna catches bugs. Big fat bugs. For Grandma. She reached into her dirty pocket and pulled out a handful of dried, hollow insect shells, offering them to Sophia. Eat, Anna, eat. Don't go to the sea. The sea has big fish. The big fish bites. Sophia looked at the dried bugs in the grandmother's hand. She remembered the plate of moldy bugs she had seen on the table earlier. She had retched and complained about how sloppy and disobedient I was for catching bugs. She hadn't realized. I caught them because we were starving. I caught them to keep this old woman alive, and to keep myself alive, until the very day I was forced into the sea to die. I'm so sorry, Anna. Sophia sobbed, pressing the dirty, cold skull against her cheek, staining her face with black grime. Mom was wrong. Mom is so sorry. Please, wake up. Please tell me this is a dream." Suddenly, a sharp, cheerful melody broke the heavy silence of the room. It was Ethan's phone. He didn't want to answer it, but the screen lit up, reflecting the bright, smiling face of Clara. "Incoming video call, my little princess." Ethan didn't move. The phone kept ringing, its upbeat tune clashing horribly with the dark, tragic scene. The chief, standing at the doorway, looked at the phone with deep disgust. "Answer it," he said quietly. "Show your little princess what you did to your real daughter." With trembling fingers, Ethan picked up the phone and swiped to answer. Clara's face appeared on the screen. She was sitting in her white, fluffy bedroom, holding a beautiful porcelain doll.
"Dad."
"Mom," Clara chirped, her voice dripping with spoiled sweetness. "Did you find Anna? Is she as dirty as I said? Tell her she can't bring any of her trash to our house. I just bought a new carpet, and if she ruins it, I'll throw her things out." Sophia turned her head slowly toward the phone. Her face was a mask of horror, covered in dirt and tears. "Clara." Sophia choked out. "Ugh, Mom. Why are you so dirty?" Clara pouted, looking at the screen with disgust. "And why are you crying? Did that dirty girl steal your money? I told you she was bad." "Shut up," Ethan suddenly roared, his voice shaking with a terrifying rage. "Shut up, Clara." Clara gasped, her eyes widening in shock. She had never heard her doting adoptive father speak to her in such a tone. "Dad, why are you yelling at me? I didn't do anything." Ethan pointed the camera down toward the pile of bones on the floor. "Look," Ethan whispered, his voice cracking. "Look at your sister, Clara." "What is that?" "A pile of garbage." Clara made a face. "Why are you showing me that? It's gross." "That is Anna," Sophia screamed at the phone, her voice completely broken. "That is my Anna. She died 3 years ago. She died because we threw her away for you. She starved, she was speared to death, and she has been rotting in the dirt while you slept in her bed." Clara went pale. She looked at the bones, then at the rusty spear, and finally at her adoptive parents who looked completely insane. "Mom, Dad, you're scaring me," Clara whimpered, her confident, princess-like demeanor instantly shattering. "I want to go home. Tell the nanny to pick me up." Ethan ended the call. He threw the phone against the stone wall, shattering it into pieces. The silence returned, heavier and colder than before. The chief called the police. Within hours, the quiet, desolate fishing village was swarming with police cars, forensic teams, and reporters. A wealthy, high-society couple from the city had neglected their biological daughter to the point of death, leaving her to rot in a shack for 3 years while they raised an adopted child in luxury. It was the kind of sensational, horrifying story that the media devoured greedily. Sophia and Ethan were escorted out of the shack in handcuffs. I followed them, floating in the cold sea breeze. As they walked through the crowd of angry villagers who had gathered outside, people threw stones and shouted curses at them. "Monsters. How could you do that to your own blood? You deserve to rot in hell." Sophia didn't even try to shield herself. A sharp stone hit her temple, drawing a trickle of blood, but her eyes remained vacant, fixed on the small black body bag that the forensic team was carrying out behind her. Inside that bag were my bones. Ethan was sobbing openly, his expensive suit ruined, his head bowed in deep, suffocating shame. They were put into the back of a police car. I sat in the middle between them, just like we used to sit when I was a toddler. "Mom, Dad," I whispered, leaning my cold, ghostly head against Sophia's shoulder. "Are we going home now?" Of course, she couldn't hear me, but she suddenly shivered violently, clutching her arms around herself as if she had been plunged into an icy lake. During the interrogation, the full depth of their cruelty was laid bare. The police found the old bank records. The automatic transfers of $500 a month had been going to a savings account that the grandmother couldn't even access. The money just sat there, piling up, while the old woman and I starved. They found the logs of my final phone call 3 years ago. "The sea is all around you, so if you're hungry, go catch fish in the water." Those words, recorded on the service provider's backup servers because Sophia had filed a complaint about harassment from the village, became the ultimate proof of their criminal negligence. The public was furious. The company Ethan owned saw its stock price crash overnight. Their wealthy friends turned their backs on them. Even Clara was not spared. She was stripped of her princess status. The public saw her not as an innocent child, but as the usurper who had stolen a dead girl's life. Relatives refused to take her in, fearing the social stain. She was eventually sent to a public welfare institution, the very kind of place she had despised. She no longer had her white, fluffy carpet. She no longer had her dazzling walk-in closet. She wore cheap, donated clothes and slept in a crowded room with other unwanted children, finally getting a taste of the hardship she had so proudly wished upon me. The forensic doctors cleaned my bones. They put them together, a tiny skeleton of a 5-year-old child. They found the fractures on my ribs and legs. The fractures that had healed poorly because I had no medical care. She suffered immensely. The medical examiner told the court, his voice filled with pity. The bone density shows severe, chronic malnutrition. She was starving long before she died. In the courtroom, Sophia and Ethan wept so hard they had to be supported by the guards. They pleaded guilty to every charge, refusing to mount a defense. They wanted to be punished. They wanted the pain to stop, but the guilt would never leave them. They were sentenced to maximum prison terms. But for me, the sentence didn't matter. My bones were finally buried in a quiet cemetery overlooking the sea. Not the dark, terrifying sea where I died, but a peaceful, blue stretch of water where the sun always shone. On the day of my burial, only the old village chief came. He placed a small plate of sweet, fresh strawberries on my grave. "Rest in peace, little Anna," he whispered. I sat on my tombstone, swinging my legs. The hollow spot on my leg where my grandmother had bitten me didn't hurt anymore. I looked at the sky. It was so bright, so beautiful. I saw my grandmother. She had passed away peacefully in her sleep a few days after the police found us. She was standing in the light, her eyes clear, her mind no longer confused. She smiled at me and held out her hand. "Anna," she called, her voice soft and sweet. "Come, sweet girl. Let's go home." I smiled, stood up, and took her hand. For the first time in 3 years, I didn't feel cold. I turned back one last time to look at the world I was leaving behind, a world where my parents would spend the rest of their lives in dark, narrow cells, haunted by the ghost of the daughter they chose to forget. And then, I let go and stepped into the light.